craven, the hunter, who uses all the methods of the animals.
This Thursday.
Once you're on his list, there's only one way off.
Are you like your father?
He puts evil into the world. I get rid of people like him.
Who's next?
Witness the making of a new Marvel villain.
You think you're some kind of honor. You're a criminal, just like our father.
Aaron Taylor Johnson is Craven the Hunter. Rated R. Under 17 on admitted without parent. In theaters Thursday.
You're listening to Achtung, Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello, dear listeners. Monday afternoon, it's Achtung Millwall, your favourite edition of the week. It's Merv Payne joining me as a fellow thicko to review a variety of responses from our voicemails. Merv, I mean, I must admit, as I said in the other show, I was frozen stiff on Saturday, and I had a mare of a journey to get over to the den and a mare of a journey to get home. I've seen a few posts on X of the Surrey Canal end looking like something out of the Somme, you know, and I think we are all thick, to coin a phrase for going there. How did you see Sadie's game and post-match comments? How did you take to it all?
Yeah, well, how you unpack that little lot? I mean, to be fair, we both saw it coming because we knew we were going to go into the game without Cooper, Hutchinson, Tanganga. Yeah. And then when the team's announced and you hear that Essie's missing, and of course all that throws up as well. They say he's injured, and all week we've been hearing about Palace is going to sign him in January for 12 million quid and loan him back to us. I mean, that's never going to end well. So I think the sort of the undercurrent of unrest was already there. But we have to be honest, and we didn't expect to get much out of the game with so many regular players missing.
No.
And Harris, as we discussed before we come on air, but the week before when we drew 1-1 Oxford, Neil Harris put it quite politely afterwards that the fans are perhaps expecting too much because we were still 9 games unbeaten and but I think his patience finally snapped on Saturday, and so came the immortal Thicko's line. But it's a weird one because on the one hand I agree with him. I think you have to you can't expect us to play at our full potential with 3 key players missing, but you just don't. I think you just cross a line, and it's something you just don't say. And it's quite ironic on a day that we celebrated John Docherty. The guy who got unbelievable stick, really disproportionate stick at a time when the club was on its knees and was lucky to get a team out every week, and he just took it on the chin. There was times in the promotion season, I'm sure, when there was a few Docherty out chants, and he must have thought. I'm sure a lot of our managers have thought this at the time. But I was really surprised to actually come out and say it. He's clearly a bit cheesed up with things at the moment. But for me personally, I think it's just a line you don't cross. But there's been a lot of divided opinion on it amongst fans. It's understandable.
Just for the purposes of clarity, anyone who hasn't, like I said the other day, might have been under a Millwall rock of some sort, has missed what this is all we're talking about here. This is Neil Harris's post-match remarks to Rich Cooley of the South London Press in the wake of that 1-0 loss at home to a very disappointing game. We'll come back to that, I'm sure, as the show goes along. But it's never good when your post-match reaction is governed by a press conference after the match rather than the football on the pitch. But anyway, Neil Harris, I'll read out the sequence of quotes from Rich Cooley, listeners. Speaking to the press, he says, "This is where people have got to get their heads out of the clouds and realise how well we've done to achieve what we have so far and how tough it is for us as a group." He's speaking, of course, about the loss of the players that Merv's just mentioned, some fairly major figures, Jake Cooper and SA and Tanganga on Saturday. Right at the end of the game, we put the ball into the box, and one of my young centre forwards, I haven't got many of them, one of my young centre forwards and one of my young wingers are standing outside the penalty area. It shows a lot of learning that we have got in front of us. You miss Romain, you miss Jaffet, and you miss Jake Cooper. 3 players that probably get into any championship team. And just a reminder to people, the thickos, that when you take the 3 best players out of the team, that this is Millwall Football Club. I can't disagree with the the spirit and the drive of what he's saying there, apart from the choice of the word thickos, because now that's all that we're all talking about, Merv. And, you know,
Yeah.
you don't have to be an expert in public relations to know that as soon as you choose a word like that, that's all you're going to hear about. And the gist of what he's saying there, I think, is probably correct. That we were, majorly affected by suspensions and injuries.
Yeah.
Major players, big figures at the
Mhm.
club, and we didn't have them around on Saturday. We're playing a makeshift back line with Ryan Leonard out of position and Murray Wallace filling in the centre. But now everyone is fixated on. You got this show's devoted to it. Other shows have been devoted to it. You got social
Yeah.
media ablaze because of
Yeah.
one word, and it's a basic schoolboy error. I don't understand. I can imagine that Neil probably feels frustrated with the limitations of the head coach role because he's not involved in
Yeah.
signings, Merv. But then
Yeah.
he would have taken that on in full knowledge. I mean, that was the deal that was offered to him, and he signed up to last February. So, you know, you can't turn around and say I never knew about this, because he did. This is the nature of
Yeah.
the job now, isn't it?
Yeah. All I'd say about that is we don't know to what extent the changes that went on in the summer, because obviously the Millwall Football Club that he came into was
Yeah,
quite different to the one we've got now. We had
that's true.
a different, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a different recruitment team, different
different
seating
bodies.
pattern.
Yeah,
But yeah,
different
yeah.
personalities. Yeah,
Don't know what. Yeah, so we don't know how we don't know if that's a James Berylson
yeah,
sort of bringing his own. He wants his own team, and there's been like a culture change behind the scenes that Neil's not happy with. These are things if we never know about, and that's why sometimes it's a bit too harsh to be too critical, because you don't know what goes on, and people at clubs, they can't divulge it. But yeah, I think the sentiment was right, but obviously the delivery was wrong, because people are saying, look, he's not saying all Millwall fans are thickos. Yeah, we know that. He's saying that the ones that can't recognise how we're going to struggle with three key players out are thickos. But it's not. It's a. I mean, his comment has come in the heat of the game.
at the
That's why
moment.
these
Yeah,
journalists. That's why they shove these microphones under managers' sort of faces straight after
yeah,
they know they're going to get. That's when they're going to get the prize sound
yeah,
bites. And the
yeah.
fans are the same. We're all very reactionary. We all kick off at the heat at the moment. Then we go home and we think about it, or the next day, and we realise it's not, or we start to be a bit more rational. But yeah, it's all a bit of a mess, isn't it? It's a bit of a shame considering how on what high we were just a few weeks ago.
Well, I said in the other show that a week is a long while in football, and I think a month is an eternity, because it's not
Yeah.
a month since we were beating top teams in our league. I'm talking about Burnley and Leeds, of course, listeners. And
Yeah.
some might say the Sunderland side was a weakened side. It still looked like a pretty good 11 that we were playing there with some top players,
Yeah.
and we were contenders. And it's all seemed to have gone. And even as I said, about 9 days ago now, since we were leading at half time at Oxford, and
Yeah.
looking at the giddy heights that we were in at that point, and it all seems to have gone very toxic very quickly thereafter.
Yeah, well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because I think there's a lot to be said for the curse of the top six,
Yeah,
because obviously we had those 4 wins in a row, and suddenly we're looking at the table, instead of looking at the bottom, we're looking at the top 6. I think for a very brief moment we were 5th or 6th, and then 7th. We won up at half time at Stoke, and we're starting, and you can't help but think. You start then thinking about the playoffs. I mean, some fans are a lot more pessimistic than others. Some will obviously dismiss it, but others, will start thinking about days out at Wembley and playing Liverpool and Man United sort of thing. And such is the nature of the Championship.
which pub are we going to get?
Yeah, exactly. Such is the nature of the Championship. You can be fighting relegation one week.
Yeah,
You can string a few wins together, as we did, and you're on the fringe of the playoffs, but you can be dumped down there again just as quickly. And I think that excitement perhaps gets the better of us. And then when the winds sort of dried up, and you see us slipping back down again, you start to get a bit. Yeah, perhaps you take it a bit too personally, but it's a very long season, and I mean, you don't get in the playoffs by being in the top 6 in the first
No.
week of November. I mean, we didn't get in the playoffs by being in the top 6 in the first week of May. A couple of years ago, did we? But
no.
so that shows how tough it is. And we've got our injury every year. We have an injury. We discussed this the last time. I think it's just a matter of when we get, 3 or 4 key players out, and it always seems to happen around Christmas time. It always
It's
costs us
harsh.
points.
I mean, Saturday was
Yeah,
harsh.
it is.
Conditions were
Yeah.
harsh. I know they're professional athletes, listeners. I know that they're highly trained and all the rest of it, but it is a fairly relentless, schedule that we play to now, Merv.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
it
the,
is.
the incessant, demands of international football, then going back to club football. I was even reading that there's a Club World Cup now going on. We'll feature in that, listeners. But the German FA are considering giving their players holidays. So that because there is such
Yeah.
a almost year-round relentless cycle. But I mean, we're not at that stage here yet. But it does seem like a lot of football being played over very short bursts, and I think it takes its toll. Something else, just as you were speaking earlier on there, that just occurred to me. It's this kind of almost philosophical debate as to what kind of club are we? Are we, as I think James Berylson and Steve Gallen, sorry, he keeps calling him Kevin, Steve Gallen, as they've said, that we are almost like a football factory, for want of a better phrase. We get players in, we polish them up, and we sell them on
Yep.
at profit. And that's the so-called Brentford Brighton model.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that would seem to me to be, a logical way for us to be.
Yeah.
But there is a price to be paid for that, that is that you get your Romain essays or you get your Japhet Tangangas, and then you have to say goodbye to them quite quickly.
Yeah.
Whilst money comes in, and hopefully you see others coming in. I think Neil Harris, as a football manager, wants to win every game that's put in front of him. He wants to climb the
Yeah, of
table
course it does.
and, state the obvious, get into the top 6, be a success. That kind of development process doesn't really lend itself. You've got to be prepared to take a knock, haven't you? You're going to get beaten by an experienced size playing your youngsters that you're having to use because you've sold your talent.
Yeah.
I don't think that's we all say this as the way forwards, Merv, but I don't know it's an easy road that we're set upon, because you've got to lose your darlings at some stage, haven't you?
Exactly, yeah. But it is, especially, people will groan when you say it, but for a club of our resources, it's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Mainly because even though, we're enjoying our best average home crowds for 50 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But in terms of FFP and all this profit and sustainability rules, all the stuff that's caught out the likes of Derby in the past, we've got to be mindful of that. And the only way you can really not be caught up in that is to buy cheap and sell big.
Yeah.
And I think Palace, they're annoying me because they're being really crafty with the Essie thing. It sounds there's too much rumour for it not to have a grain of truth in it. And if they're getting him for 12 million, that they know full well they're getting him, that's quite a. I think that will prove to be a real low price, because if he was to have a whole season or maybe season and a half of really playing at his best for us, his value would skyrocket. So I think they're taking that gamble if they do get him for 12 million.
Yeah.
And in Premier League terms, it's quite a cheap gamble, isn't it? But
It's
that's
small
the frustrating
change.
thing. You don't get really silly money. Like, you look at Brentford. I think they signed Ben Rama for 2 million and sold him for about 30 or 20 or something. That's the sort of business that's got them into the Premier League, and now they're established there. They're a fixture of the Premier League now, purely by doing that, by identifying good players at relatively cheap prices. And obviously, we're going to cash in on Fleming as well whenever that goes through. But it all hinges on you've got to get the good players in again as well. That's the thing. If you get that wrong, then you've cocked it right up.
Let's have a listen to a voicemail or two. I'm going to start us off with Matt Richards. Let's have a listen to Matt.
Nick, Matt Richards, giving my thoughts on the current position. I'm talking about the game yesterday, but current position we find ourselves in really as a club. It's really strange, worrying times really. Quickly on the game yesterday, the whole whereas the weather, John Dock's passing, the whole day was flat. SA being out of squad was obviously a bit of a shock, and there was rumours around, oh God, is this it? Is this the last game we're going to see him play? All these sort of things all contributed to a fucking awful day, to be honest. And and the performance didn't help. I didn't think we were that bad in the first half. probably the better team, but it's just our final quality of ball, really. You know, we got into good positions. Then I remember Honeyman misplacing a pass, and they all doing it. You know, and I think this is going to my other point, really. It's around, and then obviously like Harris afterwards, did he say in one of the pressers about Ficko's sort of thing? I'll probably harping back to or alluding to getting booed at Oxford, you know, and it's not a healthy situation at the moment at all, is it? All around the club. Need to remind people we are 11th in the Championship, which for Millwall historically is a really good, strong position. And you've got to think we're 11th with the squad we've got. You know, I think the expectations have been raised after getting into, you know, the top 6. This is not a strong squad. I reckon we've got a half decent, strong first team when everyone's out and playing, like Tanganga, Coburn, SA, Cooper. But that's it, you know. And even then, we're liable to win one, lose one, draw one. You know, it's going to be an inconsistent season. But when you've got players out, boy, I think yesterday we really realised it. You know, you've got to think about these players we've got. Aziz, it's his first. I thought he was our best player yesterday, by the way. It's like his first season in the Championship proper. We've got lights of people calling for Idemo to come on. Idamo's done nothing really. You know, don't get me wrong, he's come on brilliant as a sub when it's desperation, last 10, 15 minutes. But to have him starting, I think, is a massive risk. And it's easy to it's always easy to criticise, right? So, you know, it's easy to criticise. I get frustrated that Harris doesn't put on subs a bit earlier. Yesterday, Coventry put on subs, just before they scored the goal, and then we start putting subs on. That's frustrating as a fan. But when you see the quality in the squad we've got when those players are out, you know, this Langstaff and Bradshaw conversation is almost laughable, really. It's like arguing about which deck chair do you want to be on the Titanic, you know. It's like, Bradshaw isn't, you know, he's not a Championship forward now anymore, probably. Much as I, you know, love him for all the reasons everyone else does, but he's not. Is Langstaff? I'm not sure he is either. I mean, people banging on about all the goals he scored, but what was that? Just up to League Two? It's a big step up, you know, and there's a lot of pressure on him yesterday, and he might make it. He might nick us, I don't know, 5 to 7 goals a season, but he's not going to be, at what I see, a top Championship player, or even a Championship player. So it's almost, the argument going on about Bradshaw or Langstaff. Personally, I go for Langstaff, but it's like, that's not going to make the difference between us being a top 10 team. You know, it's because of the quality. We haven't got the quality in the squad. So up front, and then we've got Coburn, who's injury prone, and we've got Ivanovic, who's really raw. Again, it's his first season, in British football, let alone Championship. So I'm worried about Harris's reacting to all this, because he's been slaughtered by some online and only a few, you know, in the ground and obviously at Oxford. I just worry that I don't think he's approaching it in the right way. He's letting it get to him. You know, he's being very thin-skinned about this. So he's liable to react, and that's not going to make it better going forward. Because Millwall fans don't like to be criticised. He's got to get a thicker skin, and something's got to be sorted out. Because if this carries on, because we're going to have a struggle. We're going to struggle this season, and if he carries on reacting like that, he'll think, "Fuck this," and he'll walk. That's when I can get concerned, because who's going to come in? I think, like I've said before, I'll be happy if we stay up this season. We've got a young squad. The expectations should not be put on their shoulders. So let's get through this. Somehow Harris has got to sort his head out. Got to get players back from injury. Get to the January window. Maybe get a couple of replacements in. If SA goes, fair enough, as long as they get good money for him. But we've got to be prepared. It's going to be a tough season. We've got tough games coming up now. Sheffield United, Borough, Blackburn are doing well now. They're in the top 6. You know, then we've got Norwich away, Boxing Day. You know, it's going to be a tough old Merry Christmas, everybody. It's going to be a tough time. So, I'm just a bit worried, really. But, hey, we've been here before, and I'm sure we'll survive. That's it, really, Nick. Not much else to say, really. All this kind of... I'm sure it's going to be loads of voice notes to this like this sort of angle, then we'll probably go and beat Sheffield United on Wednesday, won't we? Because that's what happens. Let's hope we do. All right, Nick. Cheers, mate. Take care. Bye.
Big thank you to Matt for that voice note. Covered a lot of ground there, actually, Matt. Sheffield United Wednesday night. Let's hold that thought for a minute, Merv. Let's take a quick advertising break, and then Merv and I'll be back after these messages.
Achtung, Millwall.
Welcome back, dear listeners. It was a funny old day Saturday, Merv. I mean, I was kind of, I don't know if looking forward to, because of the nature of, obviously someone passing on, but I was kind of looking forward to the tribute to John Docherty, and I thought that was quite a good one. But it did seem to take some of the energy out of the day. I don't know if that's a fair comment or not, really. But the day started flat and then didn't really improve, as Matt said there. It also mentioned George Honeyman, who I've seen getting slaughtered online and in his position. I think some of our voice notes will carry on with that criticism. I think George Honeyman is a great player in the right position. He's an industrious workhorse who you do need in a side. He just doesn't have a creative quality that I think is being asked of him, and I think that's a problem for us, Merv.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do think some of the stick he gets is perhaps a bit disproportionate, but I mean, the fans do love to pick a scapegoat at times, don't they?
We love a scapegoat.
We do love a scapegoat. Once we find someone to, I was thinking about that when I saw there was a cracking turnout from the 1987-88 squad.
Yeah,
who came on the pitch for the Docherty tribute to get themselves down there, pretty short notice and stuff.
Yeah,
and I was pleased to see Nicky Coleman. I remember Nicky Coleman, who was the particular scapegoat of that.
He used to get a lot, didn't he? Yeah.
I used to get. I remember we played Bournemouth at home on a Tuesday night. Bournemouth was struggling, and we got beat 2-1. I mean, I think we equalised in the last minute, and we still managed to lose. And everyone blamed Coleman. I think Coleman did slip for their second. But we went and played Aston Villa away on the Saturday, and away from home he was brilliant. And I remember thinking, because I went to most sort of the aways that season as well. And I remember thinking it's probably just the effect of the home crowd. He just really struggled. He found the pressure of playing in front of the Millwall fans, tough. But he was certainly our scapegoat, which I thought was unfortunate at the time. But yeah, we always pick one. Unfortunately for George Honeyman.
Let's not forget, kids. We Teddy Sheringham, a giant of the club's history, an absolute giant, record goal scorer until Neil Harris, another giant. We'll come back to that in a moment. He took a slaughtering back in the 80s, Merv, when he first appeared. He was, he took a lot of abuse.
He did. Yeah, the fans didn't cut him any slack for being sort of a homegrown 20-year-old, striker, raw striker in his first couple of full seasons. In fact, I think that Bournemouth game, that was a legendary one where one of the fans in a cold blow rain and told him to get the piano off his back. I'm sure that was it. It's the thing of legend. But Teddy, being Teddy, just shrugged it off. He just laughed it off.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone could handle it,
it was Teddy Sheringham. Yeah, I mean, so we do tend to look romantically back at the past. It made me laugh. I saw someone, I don't know where it was, must have been on Twitter, and I'm going to guess that this person was a younger fan. If it is you listening, younger fan, then give your head a wobble. But he was talking about Neil Harris and his how his place at the club is neither here nor there, and I felt like saying, you're talking about a player that's his goals twice got us promoted from the third tier. Took, was in a team that got us to a cup final, which, you and me would never have dreamt of, Merv. We went into Europe. Even now, I sometimes think, did we play in Europe? Yes, we did. And then got us promoted. Well, actually, 3 times got us promoted. He was a member of the team at the playoff final at Wembley.
Yeah, and then did it as a manager.
Was given a poison chalice off of Ian Holloway, a figure of that no one takes seriously anymore. But Neil Harris picked up and almost saved us, but then did get us promoted via the playoffs. Took us close to the championship playoffs. And then saved us from relegation last season.
Yeah.
History doesn't matter was how this kid, I think it was a kid.
I disagree with
that.
that.
Absolutely appalling as a statement. So, I think he's lost his head a little bit. He said he's spoken out of turn. We can all do that, God knows. But let's remember who Neil Harris is, and don't tell me that history doesn't matter, because that is, in
And
my
if anyone can come
opinion,
back from that, it's him, basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
in my opinion, the greatest figure that this club has produced. In
Yeah,
my opinion, for
I
his
agree. Yeah,
deeds on the
I
pitch and
agree.
off the pitch. So let's
Yeah.
let's have that right. Now I've completely forgotten what I was talking about from Matt's message. A big thank you to
George
Matt.
Honeyman was mentioned.
George Honeyman, Aziz, and Amaku. I think it's tough. I mean, Amaku, Langstaff, and to some extent even Bradshaw has been injured. I mean, none of these players have had many minutes on the pitch, and
Right.
not easy to come into a team that's suddenly struggling, Merv.
Yeah, and as was it Matt then?
Yeah,
He alluded to, we've got possibly the hardest run of games now coming up. I was just looking at them then. The 5 games we've got now: Sheffield United, Middlesbrough, Blackburn, Norwich, and then we play Coventry again away. Last game of the year. So yeah, I mean, it couldn't be a tougher little run of games. So I do think, as fans, no matter how wound up we are, I do think we need to sort of like bite our tongue and get behind them. To be honest, yeah, for all the rights and wrongs of what's gone on after the Coventry game, it is maybe time to sort of like batten down the hatches, to be honest, and get in the trenches together, and hopefully get through the rest of the year relatively unscathed.
Good luck telling Millwall fans to bite their tongue, Merv, as well. I like that.
True.
You're eternally optimistic, Payne.
Yeah, I can't do it myself. That was more a message to myself than anyone else, to be honest.
Let's have a listen
to myself on Wednesday
Absolutely,
night.
note to self. Let's have a listen to Aussie Dave, all the way out there in the sunny part of Australia, Western Australia.
Nick, Aussie Dave here, after the Coventry debacle. Last week, after the Oxford debacle, I phoned in, I got stuck into Bomber. This week, I'm sorry, but it's rinse and repeat. I think it all stems back when we had that wonderful run of 4 1-0 wins. And I think Bomber and the supporters got used to this and got beguiled by this approach. And from then on, Bombers played, let's play defensive, we'll get 1 goal, we won't concede. And that has become our de facto MO, irrelevant of the team and the circumstances. What's been the result of this now? Well, in the last 11 games, we've not scored more than 1 goal in a game. And after those 4 1-0 wins, you look at the next 4 games, which was against Coventry, Oxford, Sunderland and Stoke. These were teams that are either in quite poor form or in Sunderland's case, missing half of their players. We need to beat some of these teams to avoid worrying about relegation. But with our, tight defence, low block, waiting to get a goal approach, we didn't beat any of them. So what does it come down to? I think there's 2 key areas. The first one is formation. We all know 1 up front, and Honeyman in a number 10 is going to end up in a very low goal count and shot count, and that's what's happening. He needs to play 2 up front, or at least a 1 and a very attacking number 10 to be effective. The present formation isn't working. It may work against things like Sheffield and Burnley and Leeds, but they're just a handful of teams. We're playing the middle-of-the-road teams. We don't play this defensive. The second problem after formation is player selection. Why he's kept choosing Watmore, Honeyman, Bradshaw, either they're out of form or, I must admit, I don't rate some of those nowadays anyway. And players like Imaku, Ivanovic, Langstaff, who we think have got a bright spark about them and show promise, they're hardly getting on. So, not good news. Finally, 2 things about dear old Bomber. The first one, and I could almost guess this, but I've seen the post-match interview and he blames the players. He's saying we've got lack of quality. However, when against the second half against Sunderland and the last 15 minutes yesterday against Coventry, when we put on our quality players, we look threatening. So I think we've got the players there, but it's Bomber's selection. But he blamed the players. There was no mea culpa, which I asked for 7 days ago. And finally, I've got one word to describe Bomber at the moment, and that is stubborn. He sticks to his pattern, particularly bringing on subs too late. At half-time yesterday against Coventry, I thought, he's got to bring on and have two forwards. We haven't had a shot on target at home against a team low on confidence and form. And what does he do? He makes the changes too late. We lose a lead and we deserve to lose. So I don't know. I love Bomber. He's done great things for us over the years, and particularly the last, year. But, I think the doubters are going to start coming out in the woodwork. And so I think Bomber needs to self-reflect and start thinking about how to play games against his middle of the road teams. With Sheffield United and Middlesbrough coming up, I don't mind his standard MO of defensive and hope we get a draw or sneak a goal. But against 90% of the clubs in the division, we shouldn't be playing like that. Okay, Nick, come on, you Lions.
Great stuff, Dave. Big thank you there, mate. Stubbornness, Merv. I would imagine. I mean, I'd take Dave's criticism. I take it well, but stubbornness, I'd imagine, it must be part and parcel of the football manager's armoury, because you're going to get bombarded with views and opinions from within your squad, from the terraces, online, every direction.
Yeah, I don't think you can afford. People will criticise him for not taking responsibility or taking the blame or shifting the blame, but I don't think you can. There's only so many times after a match or a defeat you can take the blame yourself. I think we saw that with Joe Edwards. I think that was when things really started to crumble. Yeah, you look like. I think you've got to have a bit of stubbornness about you, and you've got to have a bit of resilience and a bit of belligerence. Really, otherwise, once you start to get that sort of weakness, then you're just going to get overcome. So I don't blame him for being like that. But and again, I think Saturday his hand was forced with player selection, which is really unfortunate and frustrating.
There seems to be this very Millwall soap opera, and we do love a soap opera down the den, listeners, don't we? We like villains, and we like people, thwarted heroes. It could be like a soap opera or Hollywood, maybe even a movie of the past. But it does seem to be this ongoing feud, or whatever you want to call it. Certainly a measure of coolness between Neil Harris as head coach, not manager, head coach. And Steve Gallen as director of football, and therefore the signer of the talent, so to speak. I don't know that Neil is particularly fitting into that kind of approach. He doesn't feel at one with them, and it might be what you said earlier on, Merv, about the change in personalities that happened at the club. But it seems to be at the root of it all, doesn't it?
It does feel like it. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but you do sense with some of his post-match comments that he's not too happy about it, or there's things that that are making his job harder, and he's not able to sort of come out and say it, which is I say often the way at football. You can't just divulge everything that goes on behind the scenes.
No.
Yeah, this is it. So yes, we don't know how different Millwall Football Club is to work at for Neil Harris now or in the summer as it was in February when he came in and did so well. You just don't know how the culture behind the scenes changes and how easy that is. I mean, you and I both worked at regular jobs, and you get a new manager come in, or there's a change, and the whole atmosphere at the place changes, and for the better or worse. So I can't imagine a football club is much different to that. And we've seen if morale dips or there's fallouts behind the scenes, however much players and manager will deny it, you do start to see it manifest on the pitch.
It seeps into the squad, doesn't it?
Yeah, so
rapidly so.
I think Gallen was quoted last week as confirming there would be people coming in the January window, which was interesting. Yeah. And I don't know if that was a coincidence with the Palace essay stories, but it's not helped. And I say that just sort of fuels the suspicion and the toxicity amongst the fans, I think, a little bit as well.
We do have a bit of toxicity down the den as well.
We do.
Let's have a quick listen to Rob Woodford. Last one for Merv. Let's play Rob Woodford for you now, Merv.
Yeah, hi Nick. Rob Woodford from Block 4. I've probably missed the boat and you've recorded the show already, but I'll throw my lot in just in case. Thought it was always going to be a difficult game against Coventry. Team in a false position. We're playing with a makeshift back four, and we've got 4 key players out. thought we competed well in the first half, but then in the second half, we just couldn't get the ball off them. They was passing around, good technically gifted team, and we got to do what we normally do best, and that's work hard and try and get a few chances to score the goal, but it wasn't to be, was it? A bit unfortunate, I thought, some of the comments coming from where I was sitting, and I think some of these people were not regulars, not season ticket holders, having a right go at the lady linesman. Thought that was a bit unfortunate, especially when you get terminology like "see you next Tuesday." I think that's very uncalled for. I think her ponytail got in the way just once from where I was sitting. There was an offside that should have been called. And what was the geezer on the other side, the other linesman? He was like very diminutive, wasn't he? I thought, first of all, I thought, you need to stand up, mate. But he was very short from where I was sitting anyway. These people that were calling out to the lineswoman like that, I can only describe those individuals as thickos. That's my terminology for them anyway. Yeah. So we've got to get going, mate. It's that Sunday where we put the tree up and we deck the halls. And to be honest, I'm surprised the halls have lived next door to us for so long. But let's look forward to Wednesday. See how we go.
Oh, the old ones are the best, Merv.
Yeah, it sounds like Rob's opening with Christmas crackers already, doesn't it? I think.
Oh,
dear.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, I did notice the female lineswoman, I suppose, or lino, whatever, assistant referee now they're called, isn't it?
Yeah, it must be that's going to be a tough job, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I suppose if you're in the realm of a football stadium, you've got to get used to some language, listeners. I don't endorse it. I don't particularly.
No.
I did read a thing the other day about the amount of abuse that referees, and totally different side point, but talking about kids football, you're talking about non-league football all the way down to your local park. I don't know what. You've got to be a certain type of motivated individual to want to be a referee, because it just sounds like reminds me of being in the housing world, listeners, where people just ring you up and you're a sponge for their abuse, basically, for the failings of others. Often.
I got two boys, and they both played junior football for a long, long time, and I saw all sorts of shenanigans with referees. A lot of them really young.
Yeah,
and it was out of it. It did improve a lot towards the end. I saw some very impressive young refs as well who would lay the law down before the game and stuff like that. But yeah, you've got to be a
stern personality.
You've got to really love the game to do that on a Saturday or Sunday morning, definitely.
Yeah. So hats off to those that do. And I suppose not that people think about these things in the heat of the moment. There's that phrase again, listeners. When you're in the heat of the moment, things come out of your mouth. I think we've probably all got to be a bit forgiving of people speaking in the heat of the moment. It is part of the pantomime that is football, professional football.
Yeah. It was a shock to hear it, but yeah, I think if anyone can overcome that, can ride that out, then it's Neil Harris. To be fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about
against him. No.
The referee on Saturday. I thought he let a lot go, and there was a few. I didn't, from my vantage point, they weren't standout penalty shots, but people online seemed to think there was one or two fairly strong calls for a penalty. One on Jules Saville, which I've got to be honest with you, listeners, I was too far away from, so I didn't pick up on it at all. I don't know if you saw anything on that, Merv, but
no. I've seen various opinions on the disallowed Joe Bryan goal as well. Apparently,
that was. I thought that looked harsh in real time, and even watching the replay, I don't agree with that. But you're not going to change that. But it would have been a different game, I suppose, if that had been allowed to stand.
If we got the first goal, maybe. Yeah,
would have pressed on. Just a word about Rob put it right. I mean, as he put it there, we competed. I thought it was a fairly dour, dreary first half, but. Couple of moments, but not much. But the second half, I thought Coventry really took hold. I've got to take my hat off to their tactics and their approach in the second half, because this is much maligned figures here, Frank Lampard and Joe Edwards, who we know well.
It's Todd's door, really, isn't it? Yeah,
they got it right Saturday, Merv. I mean, you got to say they bullied us,
I mean, we know all about the Joe Edwards new manager bounce, don't we? We won 4-0 at Sheffield
4.
Wednesday on his first match, and we thought we found the golden goose of coaching, didn't we? We thought we cracked it, and no doubt he'll have had a very big dossier on to hand to Frank about how to piss the fans off. Once you piss the fans off, that's it. You've got half a battle.
That's
done.
all we need to do, boss. Yeah,
it was everything. Yeah, it was just everything combined against us, really, didn't it? Those Coventry players and. What Rob said was right. Coventry are in a full position. They're a good side, and they're coming to terms of losing their best player. Yeah, no, they've lost that Gyökeres. They're coming to terms with replacing him.
Yeah,
and trying to sort of fight back and reinvest that money and get back up into the playoffs. And every season they've started badly, which is why I thought sacking Robbins was a bit harsh. They've always started slowly and come good in the second half, and they always seem to be a bit of a jinx team against us as well. So everything combined against us on Saturday. Yeah,
bad day in South Birmingham. A tough game on Wednesday night, just before we close, Merv.
Yeah.
Being a thicko, I'm going to.
The Millwall fans will turn up in their dunce caps. Hopefully,
I'm going to go down there. I'm a thicko. I'll be there in the freezing cold again, damp.
They have a pencil in each year old.
Yeah. Let's keep our fingers crossed for Wednesday night. We
we
know how these things go. Generally, we're reporting on the Saturday and we find something, and hopefully. First bounce back. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Merv, I want to say a big thanks for joining me again for the Voice Note Show.
Pleasure.
We're going to take another short break now for any more advertising messages that StreamYard put in, and I'll be back after that with the remainder of the voice notes. So stay tuned.
Achtung, Millwall.
Welcome back, dear listeners. We're going to play the show out now with the remainder of the voicemails that I've received. I will interject here and there. But for the most part, we'll run them back to back to cover the ground of Saturday, and then obviously the post-match comments from Neil Harris. Incidentally, dear listeners, if you would like to join the posse of contributors to the show, be most welcome. I really enjoy getting all the voice notes, and they make for an excellent show, in my opinion, with all the various cast of characters that we've managed to build up on the show. So do give me a shout. You can contact me on X. You can direct message me on X. And we can exchange mobile numbers for WhatsApp. That's dead easy. You just speak into your WhatsApp, record a message, and zap it over to me. You can speak into your voice recorder on your phone, send that via WhatsApp. Or else, even if all else fails on X, you can actually send a voice note on a direct message, and I can use that. So any of those methods, fantastic. Really appreciate everyone contributing to the show. It makes for a really fantastic listen, in my opinion, my humble opinion. So do give me a shout if you'd be interested in giving us a post-match review, thoughts, musings, comments, anything you like, really, along the way. So, hit me up, as the kids say. So first up, we've got the remainder of the voice notes. We're going to play in succession Michael Avery, John Rankin, and then Glyn Horner. And I'll be back after Glyn.
Home now after a longish journey, longer than I thought it'd take me to get home. Fair play to the Elizabeth line. For cocking up when also every road going from east to South London seems to be unoperational as well. What a frustrating afternoon. Very makeshift for me, the lineup today. I mean, I'm not going to have a pop at Harris too much. You can only put out the players that you want. And I think he would have really just picked who we would have done. Really, in truth, you could maybe argue Ivanovic for Langstaff or, one or two little bits here and there. But ultimately, it is what it is. Side picks itself really kind of, again, without one or two exceptions. First half, there was nothing was there from neither side. And I don't think either side produced anything of real quality. Second half, Coventry wanted it a bit more than we did. They got the goal. Also, there was a time where their centre forward, I think it was the number 10, I can't remember his number now. But, I mean, he fell over twice in the penalty box, managed to get himself up, get the ball and still dance around three of our players who decided to watch him. There was the chance where Leonard uncharacteristically mistimes a clearance. It fell to their forward who should have crossed it in better. And again, Coventry should have scored. They hit the post from a corner and obviously got their goal as well. A few people around me were saying there was a foul in the build-up or a foul in the goal. But, I mean, apart from Jensen, no one else really appealed. And, I just thought we made the wrong decisions in the final third. there's going to be questions about what Neil Harris said in the press conference after the game. Maybe he didn't use the right words. And I don't want to start rows with anyone, but, there is a little bit of me just thinking, yes, okay, the Oxford game wasn't particularly great. Today wasn't particularly great. But with the limitations and, what we've had with injuries and suspensions and all that kind of stuff, that's our first defeat in 10, boys and girls. We need to think like that. We need to remember that, and I said it in our little group chat that I've got. Very start of the season, did I think that by Christmas or around Christmas time that Neil Harris would have got us in the top half of the table, a couple of wins outside the playoffs and on a 10-game or 9-game unbeaten run up until today? I wouldn't have done. Has he got today's tactics right? No. Has he got the lineup right? Arguably, he's done the best he can. And is he just doing the best he can with the squad he's been given? I'd say so. People questioning Neil Harris now. I'd question his ability. I'd question his managerial expertise. I wouldn't question his love and devotion for the football club. But disappointing afternoon. Week's a long time in football. We could have a couple of wins and forget all this happened. Come you Lions.
Hi Nick, hi listeners. John Rankin calling in after the rather disappointing 0-1 defeat at home to Coventry. How touching it was to see the tribute to John Docherty, our greatest ever manager. I know there's other people in line for that accolade, other managers, but for me he's the number one because he took us up to the top flight. Fantastic to see some of the old players. They were walking round. I couldn't quite pick out many of them, but I did notice Teddy Sheringham there, I think. So that was marvellous, and a shame we couldn't mark the occasion with another victory at home. But I don't know, I had a feeling we were going to struggle, to be honest with you. I watched Coventry last week on one of the televised matches, and I thought they looked good. They moved the ball around really well. They got some very good players, and we were missing our best players. Obviously, Javid Tanganga in defence, and it spoke volumes that Coventry scored from a headed goal because he's always challenging for every single header, although he's not the tallest player in the pack. Obviously we miss Roman Essay. George Honeyman had trouble trying to be playmaker. I think it's asking too much of him to try and play a number 10 role because he's running around trying to tackle, and I don't think that is really what your number 10 is supposed to do so much in the modern game. I think your number 10 is there to stay in space and be available for the ball and to receive the ball and then make play from the ball going forward. That's my understanding of a number 10, and Honeyman's been caught in two minds. He's trying to break down play in the midfield by doing a high press and pressurised running, and then when he receives the ball he's kind of either too tired or his lungs are bursting because he's been running all over the place. So I think if he's going to continue at number 10, he just needs to focus on letting others break the play up and supply the ball to him. But coming on to that, I thought Saville was well off the pace today, not his usual self, and Casper Denore looked very tired. We gave away so much cheap ball. We just couldn't retain possession in the middle of the park, and I think that's what told. The first half was pretty even. I thought we edged it. First half, Murray Wallace played well, Danny Mack, Joe Bryan and Ryan Leonard were solid in the back four. The middle two sort of clung on, but I don't think they had the greatest of halves. Femi Aziz played really well. Thought he was our best player. And Langstaff, Honeyman, they tried their best up front. Watmore was a little bit absent. He had one attempt at goal. But, it's pretty much for muchness. Second half, Coventry came out and they raised their game, and they had a sort of 10-15 minute purple patch. And they capitalised on it, a headed goal. I think it was from a corner or a cross. And I don't think it really looked like scoring until Imaku came on and got given the ball. And I think he was very exciting. But the Serbian lad, I thought he should have been in the 6-yard box a bit more. I think Bradders has run his race now as a championship player. And Langstaff sort of showed that he's still that League One type player or League Two type player, and he's got to be a bit quicker and a bit sharper. And I just thought we come up short, basically, against a well-drilled Coventry side. It was a return of Joe Edwards to the den, and you could see Frank Lampard had him coached in playing the ball around, simple short passes, keeping possession, and that killed us off really. We huffed and puffed in the second half, but it was just huff and puff. So, disappointed, but great to see some of the old faces at the den. And, we go on to the next game, that's all you can say. Let's hope our guys come back, our Tangangas and our Coopers and our SAs, and we put out a full-strength squad. All the best then. See you later. Come on, you Lions.
Evening, Nick. Glenn here. So I'm ruminating over the game today, and obviously the result was disappointing, and I think in general you could say that the team did lack a bit of quality and cutting edge. And I'm just reading some comments from Neil Harris's comments after the game, and I wanted to share my thoughts. I think the defence, it was moved around, and Wallace was brought in, and Leonard moved to centre back, and Danny Mack moved into right back. I think generally speaking they did okay. I mean, Wallace actually did himself no harm whatsoever, and looked like he could hold down a spot at that left side of centre, which I think is probably arguably his right position. I don't know that he's a long-term answer, but he's certainly a good stand-in when we're missing the likes of Jake Cooper in the medium term. So generally speaking, I think goalkeeper and defence did okay. I think really the quality aspect going forwards is the issue there. And for me, seeing Aziz play, seeing Langstaff play was the right call in my opinion. And I know Harris is sort of a bit sore about the fact that he thinks expectations are too high, but I think we need to give these players game time. And yes, did they set the world alight today? Not really, no. But they need game time, and they will get better. And I think Aziz actually did look pretty decent. Langstaff, I think, struggled to really make himself felt, but I still would play him. And when Ivanovic came on, he just looks like he's going to be a handful and becomes a very good sort of option off the bench. Certainly, given him 25 minutes today. I think there was 2 or 3 subs. I think Amaku came on at the same time. They had a good solid 20-25 minutes to impact the game, which is a much better way of using your subs than bringing them on when there's literally just minutes left. So I get Harris's frustration with the crowd, and I get his comment that when you're missing SA, Cooper and Tanganga, that's going to impact the team negatively. We're 100% without a doubt. They're all good players. But that should not be the excuse for not continuing to give the likes of Langstaff and Amaku opportunities to come on and show their quality. Amaku, again, looked absolutely impactful. I wouldn't say brilliant, but I mean, he certainly caused a lot of problems. Chased down and won balls that looked like they were lost causes. I'd love to know what he's doing on the training pitch to make everybody think he's not capable of playing first team football, being part of this squad, because what I see on game day is a player who's given his heart and soul and really trying as hard as he can to make a positive impression. So yeah, we lost a game. But it doesn't mean that we should not continue to give these players game time. Aziz is a great example of a player who was on the fringes, but as he got more game time, he got better, and now he's a nailed-on favourite. Just on that point, though, to bring Amaku into the team, you would have to drop Watmore. But I think, to be honest with you, I would consider using Amaku and Watmore for different styles of games. Watmore's more the guy you want to use when you're attacking on the break and defending. I think Amaku is the guy you want to use when you're going at a team that you think is lower down the league and got less quality or less confidence. Amaku could probably eviscerate a side that's low on confidence. Anyway, so that's my thoughts. Harris, I know you're unhappy, but just stick with it. Keep giving these players a chance because they will get better with experience, and that's the only way they're going to learn. Come on, you Lions.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Jen. And before then, thank you, Michael. I just want to mention the youngsters, the inexperienced. I'm going to put up a youngster that actually is. But certainly Aziz, Ivanovic and the Michael, young players. Aziz has come on a long way, listeners, isn't he? And I've said it before, so I shall say it again. They're repeating themselves, as I'm told. When I first saw the boy, I didn't really think we had it in him. I wasn't convinced. I thought we'd signed a dud. And that's been proven now, because I think we signed a very effective, fast, quick-thinking player in Femi Aziz, and it's fantastic to be proven wrong. But as far as the likes of the Marco and nobody didn't play the lower staff, but certainly Marco, I think he's got a long way to go. His trademark, his calling card is that run from midfield in the wing, surging inwards with direction towards the penalty area. I like it, I'm sure you like it too, is that's down that pace and with the intention of causing panic in the defence. And we didn't really see that Saturday, but he certainly made a couple of runs and got dispossessed at last. Well, that will be the price of a forward running player, because you're taking a chance, you're trying to set a dummy and you're trying to beat a man, whatever it is. So you don't always get away with that. You're trading on percentages. But I like his style. He's by no means a finished article.
Neil Harris's comments about his young wing and his young centre forward, which is Ivanovic, and I mentioned him as well, are very true. If they're not in the 6-yard box, not in the danger zone from a last gasp corner kick, then yeah, they've got stuff to learn about the game. But they are young, and that's the point of what we're trying to do here. I think. I suppose Neil Harris will say learning is best done on the training pitch rather than in the heat of a championship 3-pointer. But I think it's unfortunate to name check those two players at their young age and not name check the poor cross that came in from Joe Bryan. I've mentioned this before. I'm not going to join the Joe Bryan bandwagon of knocking, but that was a very poor cross because we had a potential to have one last go, and it was just punted over the heads of everybody straight out for it would have been a goal kick if the play had continued. So it's not just the young players. I think that's the point I'd make. John's point about the emotion of the Johnny Docherty tribute, yeah, very well. I think it possibly had a bit of an impact on the day itself. It certainly didn't feel like a raised high tempo den as we kicked off, but equally John Dock did what nobody else has done at the den, took us into the top flight, so a major figure. So great to see that tribute and great to see the old players as well. But there we are. So big thank you, Michael, John and Glenn. I'm going to play us out now with Bill Slack, followed by Danny Major, Adam Wicks, and then the legend, the man, the myth that is Bobby T. I'm going to say thank you to everyone for contributing to this show. I should be back after the Sheffield United game on Wednesday, probably Thursday at some stage, I guess. Do send me your voice notes, listeners. I really want to hear from you, your thoughts and musings on the game on Wednesday. And I'll be back probably Thursday, Friday-ish with another edition of Achtung Millwall. So until then, from me, Nick Hart, arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
Hello, Nick. It's Bill Slack. Feeling like a bit of a thicko tonight. I think this is only going one way with Neil in it, and it is a terrible shame. I don't think he thinks that him or the squad are getting the credit they deserve, and I think to an extent they're right. I think as Millwall supporters we have to accept that we are what we are where we are. There are only maybe 4 or 5 teams in the division with a lower budget than us, and I think there does need to be a dose of realism. I think that we do well every year to stay in the division. That is just an absolute fact. All of that being said with Neil, I think you saw it last week with Bradshaw coming on for the second half. We've got some selections there that us supporters I don't think really agree with. I mean, he talked when Watmore's not in the squad. He talks about him like we've lost Maradona or Ronaldo up front. I just don't see that. He talks about how Watmore gets us up the pitch, how he carries the ball well. Well, I'll tell you what I've seen today. Marku carried the ball 10 times as well as Watmore did. Honeyman is playing in that number 10 role, but doesn't do anything remotely creative. He chases, he tackles. No one can doubt his work ethic, but in terms of creativity and going forward, can anyone remember him playing a forward pass that actually got us in a dangerous position? And I think what's happening with the support and Harris is, I think we fundamentally want to see players that we can actually get behind. You know exactly what you're going to get out of Watmore, and I think that Neil looks at Imarku and thinks, well, he's inconsistent. To which I would say, well, he's not going to get that consistency if you don't consistently play him. How is he going to improve? How is he going to get in the box when there's a corner? If he's only playing 40 minutes over the space of 4 or 5 weeks, I don't think the Millwall support want to continue to see Honeyman and Watmore in that team. But all of that being said, Neil Harris knows far more about football than I will learn in 3 lifetimes. He knows far more about that squad and those players than I will ever know. And I think there has to be an element of trust there, but some of these selections are absolutely baffling. Our performance today was so poor. The conditions were shit. Same for both teams. But you can't call your own supporters fickos and not expect there to be a backlash. You just can't. Legend or not, it is completely unnecessary. It's completely unneeded, and it's only going to cause trouble. And I think Neil needs to remember how it ended the last time. It ended the last time with our team being really quite submissive and on the back foot and defensive. He got more and more defensive in his interviews, and in the end, the Millwall support turned on him, and it's almost like he doesn't really care. You've also got these veiled comments about the recruitment and everything else, and you know what? To an extent, I do get it. Millwall have spent more money on Ivanovic than we've spent on anyone else, and he isn't in any way, shape, or form the finished article. I've not seen. Aside from the goal that he scored, I've not seen anything that would suggest he's worth 2 or 3 million euros. So Neil Harris is looking at that going, well, that's a vast amount of money for Millwall Football Club. That's a vast amount of money of my summer transfer budget. And he's not really bringing that sort of value versus talent at the moment. The contribution from him isn't in any way, shape or form conducive to what the fee was. So I do get his frustration, but there's a big disconnect at the minute between what we're seeing on the pitch, Neil Harris's views, and the supporters' views, and that never ends well, and it never ends well generally for the manager. And I don't want to see it, but we have seen this film before. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers, mate.
Hello, Nick. Denny from Calgary here, or a Thicko from Calgary, I guess you could say, or Harris would say. I was actually back home in England last week, but it was all away games, and getting away tickets it's not happening these days. So that was a shame, but at least I missed out on today's game. I never was going to win today with Tanganga, Coops, and especially SA out as well. Yeah, I don't really know what to comment apart from, I go back to it every time. I think we had a very good transfer window. But the fact we didn't get cover for the centre-back role, I know we got that kid from Liverpool, but he was left-back, wasn't he, or something like that? You can't start Murray Wallace these days. He's a League One player, at best. Shouldn't even be in that. Great player. He's been so good for us, but yeah, I don't know how we didn't get someone in the summer, at least on loan anyway. Sorry it's been so long, Nick. All the best. Thanks for keeping me updated. Cheers. Bye.
Hey, Joe from Chicago. 0 shots on target at home. That's just bad. I don't think Langstaff's ever getting off the bench again because I don't think Harris will trust him. So it's going to be interesting. Imaku does the same thing, makes that byline run, puts his head down every time. It's becoming a bit predictable. Yeah. Also, never need to see Ryan Wintle take a corner again. Yeah, that's in the Ryan Leonard yellow card that shouldn't have been on him. Just what a day. What a terrible, terrible loss to have happen at home. December really is kind of terrifying when you look at the schedule ahead. Hey, come on you Lions. Cheers. Never felt the need to send a second voicemail, but I'm a thicko apparently, according to Neil Harris, because dare I question this team because of their nice unbeaten run. Okay, Neil, let's see how we look at the end of December. Keep starting Honeyman. This is really going to start well. Now throw Bradshaw on too. Okay. Cheers, fellow thickos. What does he gain by saying that? What an asshole thing to say. And he's just going to get aggregated now. Probably that's going to end up on TalkSport. That's going to end up on the BBC and Sky Sports. Stupid thing to say. Stupid, immature thing to say. Because now every reporter is going to be quoting that. Well done, Neil. You've made a story out of nothing.
Morning, Nick. Just Adam Wicks here, just leaving my thoughts on yesterday's unfortunately predictable home defeat to Coventry. Just there's obviously a bit to cover here, but just on the game, I felt first half we were probably the better team, had the ball in better areas, but just didn't use it very well, made poor choices. For whatever reason, I thought Aziz was very lively. He looks a sort of breath of fresh air in that attack. The rest of the team's solid. Second half, obviously they stepped it up. We look a bit ramshackle, and eventually that leads to the goal for them. Harris then makes changes, brings a bit more attacking pace and endeavour into the side, and we sort of huff and puff a bit, but we didn't really threaten as much as I would have liked. And it was just a bit disappointing all round in the end. I think that game was there to definitely not be lost and possibly nicked. I didn't think Coventry were that great. We just allowed them to sort of gain control in the second half. And then I think just off the back of that, Harris's comments after the game are unfortunate choice of words, and I think knowing the fan base as we all do, he obviously doesn't mean everybody when he says thickos, but unfortunately a lot of people are probably going to take some umbrage with that statement, and I think it just clearly shows how much last weekend's reactions got under his skin, and he just for some reason can never just say. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's a bit shown as a sign of weakness or something, but I'm sure we've got media people that can train him in some aspect of how to communicate a little bit better. Just a way to say, that he didn't get it quite right, and I just don't. I see sort of he's mentioned a couple of the young players not being where he would have liked for a cross late in the game. I mean, we had experienced players in the first half, senior pros, running around like headless chickens when they had the ball, having the ball and having good options to sort of get us going on the front foot and slowing things down, playing the ball into blind alleys and poor areas. I don't understand why he has to dig out the inexperienced ones, and all the senior pros seem to have seem to get the ultimate protection. It's a really weird way to manage for me, like from a man management perspective. If he's got genuine criticisms of some of the younger ones, just keep it in house. I don't understand it for me, because if I was one of them, I'd just be looking at it thinking, why are you criticising me when, I don't know, Duncan Watmore's had 60 minutes and looks like he could play for 180 and not do anything. He's just reverted back to sort of how ineffective he used to be. I think he's very hot and cold, isn't he, in that respect? And obviously we've got a few players that were in form at the start of the season that have dropped off a little bit, and it sort of coincided with us needing them to step up and sort of take the place of some of the more effective players that we've got. And it's just an unfortunate set of circumstances, really. And I think just finally for me, I listened to the podcast last week, and Harry was talking about the sort of teams he watched growing up. I mean, my first season of watching Millwall as a 7-8-year-old was the promotion season under John Docherty. That's where my understanding of how a Millwall side was forged. And although I was too young to understand context and the nuance of the game, perhaps, I just loved the fact that we would turn up and we would have it out with anybody and all comers, anyone that come to the Den, any away game we went to, we went toe to toe. And I think there's a generation of Millwall fans, unfortunately for anybody who manages us, and that is sort of where we set the bar. Really, the expectation is that we compete, and we get tight to people, and we get in their faces, and we don't fall into this trap of thinking we're because we're Millwall we can't compete with teams that spend a little bit of money. We absolutely can, and we've shown we have done, and that's we've been absolutely delighted this season to do that, and the praise has been flowing when that's happened. You just can't then flip it around the other way and say, oh, we can't cope with a few injuries and that's Millwall. No Millwall fan is going to accept that. No one. We expect all of them to have a go, and we believe in all of those players, and they can do a job for us. So onwards to Sheffield United in the week, which will be a very, very tough game. I just I hope we get a little bit of unity and we can get back on track a bit, because I've got a horrible feeling that the second half of the Oxford game was the sort of start of a little bit of an unravel, especially with some difficult games coming up. But anyway, come on, you Lions.
Yeah, Nick Hart, Bobbitt here at home. Didn't go. It's probably still going on the game. We're not going to get equalised. I'm at home because I've got my chest infection. But we all knew it's going to finish 1-0 unless we get a last-minute winner. But I'm really upset on my sofa, because we all knew the Joe Edwards effect. We all fucking knew the Joe Edwards and the Lampard effect. They'd beat us. I knew it. But about Esse, injured, bollocks, bullshit. He's gone to Palace for 20 million or whatever. And again, we had our back four out today. And the wind and the storm, I couldn't go to that. My health's more important. And then his selection again, Langstaff, forget Bradshaw. My high look, anyway, I think it's finishing 1-0. Bye for now. I'm fuming. Cunts. There you go, 1-0. There you go. Fucking cunts. Watching NASCAR was new. We lost 1-0. I'm fucking fuming. I'm fuming. West Ham cunts. Sorry, watch the Sky Sports News. Sorry. Yeah, we can't win them all. We can't win them all. Unbeaten. Fuck off. Yeah, sorry, Nick Hart. Bobbitt here from my sofa. Sorry for my language. Very frustrated. Got a chest infection. But if we're not careful, Nick Hart, We're going to get dragged into relegation. I know we're not safe yet. Forget playoffs, game in hand. Oh, Merry Christmas. Just seen Nick Hart. I can't believe Bobby here. Poor day, wind conditions. No excuses. I've just seen the highlights and the goal off the bar. For me, I don't know what, if you want to speak and what you think, boys, of Mervyn Payne, Harry, whatever. Please tell me. I don't think Langstaff can cut it in this league. I could be wrong, but he's had chances today. Serb comes later on. Langstaff ain't the answer. Bradshaw ain't the answer. Langstaff don't cut it for me. He had chances and he fucking skied them high. Oh, God help us against Sheffield United. It's probably going to beat the Blades. And then Middlesbrough next Saturday. I'm going, hopefully. Take care, Nick. All the best. Great podcast. Very frustrated today. And we're just a mid-table side. Bye for now. Nick Hart, Bobby T here after the full-time whistle didn't go today. But I've just heard Neil Harris's post-match comments. And if this is true, whatever he said, and it's the same old broken record with him, most fans are slightly getting frustrated, pushing buttons now. Apparently he called Millwall fans thickos and get your head out of the clouds, cloud 9. Now, Nick Hart and Achtung Millwall, if this is true in what he said, I love Neil Harris to bits. As a player, he was great, legend player. But as a manager, you're clueless, personally. And if you just said, no, you called our fans thicko, and we paid good money, today I couldn't make it because of the storm or I was ill, calling us thickos when you can't play the youngsters on the bench. And as I said, Nick Hart, and you go way back with the doc and all that, and Neil Harris as a player, Cascarino, Sheringham. Maybe it's time for Neil to put your hands up and hold your hands up high and say, I got it wrong. Walk away again before you're pushed, Neil or Bomber. Before you're pushed and it gets ugly. That's my take on it. Tell me what you think, Merv, Harry Potter, all the other guys in the Achtung Millwall. For me, these quotes are, and Sheffield United probably go win now. And he's playing his mates and Mihailo, Amaku. If we get a new manager in, I don't mean Edwards, but just a new, older experience, fresh change at Millwall to 4-4-2, because Harris ain't playing that, and he's clueless. Bye for now, Nick Hart.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.